We're recording, so go ahead.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Rogowski. I'm the director of the Finance Center for Northern California SBDC, Small Business Development Center Network. And we are bringing this to you. We bring this to you every Monday, Wednesday. This is our 61st session. Today is Monday, September 21st. And hopefully everyone had a wonderful weekend. This is our small business town hall updates around disaster relief loans, COVID, and now fires. And then we have a special guest today around HR, human resources. We have Linda Sinyard. She's one of our advisors, regional advisors. And we'll jump into this together. We are all in this together. And a quick introduction, we're the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, been around 40 years this year. We're supported by SBA, Small Business Administration, as well as the state of California, the Office of Governor's, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, which is called GoBiz. Because of this funding, we come to you at no cost. We don't charge anything for our one-on-one advising. That's 100% confidential. We also don't charge for our workshops and our webinars that are educational and that are brought to you. So the Finance Center, my name is Scott Rogowski. I'm the director. We have Sunita Maharaj. She's on the call as well. She's our associate director. And before COVID or the fires, SBDC, the Finance Center, specialized in helping businesses access capital across all different channels, whether it be startup capital, growth capital, expansion, hiring people, buying buildings, buying equipment. But during COVID, we've become specialties around the disaster financing and then now the fires. And we also have SBA on the call today. We have David Castaneda. He's from the Sacramento district office. We'll get into a little bit of updates from him. I'm sure he's got some exciting stuff to tell us about National Small Business Week, which transferred to this week from May because of COVID. So I'm hoping to hear something exciting about that from him. For our agenda today, we have our disclaimer. We have COVID and fire EIDL parameters. We changed the chart from EIDL loans and PPP loans to bring fire EIDL information, since a lot of us are experiencing the fires. Just one slide around PPP required documents, SBA updates, including the fires. I'm not sure if Dave is going to go over updates around fires, but he might be able to do that. Upcoming webinars brought to you by Alan, and then guest speaker, Human Resource Advisor Linda Sinyard, and then Q&A. All right, so disclaimer, things are changing all the time. This information was correct when I put it together, but things are changing all the time. EIDL applications. David, I don't know if you know, but there is some discrepancy on the EIDL applications if it expires this month or if it expires in December. But when you go online and apply, it says it expires this month. So I'm not sure if you have an update on that, David.
That I do not. Okay. We'll probably have to get that update, from Carrie or probably Carrie. Okay. And probably Wednesday we'll get that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Sounds great. So we'll get that to you, but currently today, all the applications are open for EIDL, whether you're agriculture, non-agriculture. Also, it's open up to 3 types of nonprofits, 501c3, C4, and C6. So please don't hesitate to apply. The faster you apply, the faster you get the money. The EIDL advance is closed. There's no longer that $1,000 to $10,000 kind of like that free money. It's not available anymore. So please don't hesitate. PPP did close as of August 8th, which kind of seems like yesterday to me, probably Sunita, but it's actually, it's over. It's almost 2 months from that day. It's crazy. So, and we're all still waiting for some sort of other third or triple tranche or triple launch, but we haven't heard anything. All right. So this is side-by-side comparison. This may look foreign to some of you, but this is EIDL COVID, and then there's EIDL fire. There's also EIDL civil unrest, depending on where you were or where you are. But we're not going to go over those. Most of those, I think, expired. But you still can apply for fire EIDL. And so the rates are pretty similar, but for EIDL COVID, It's 2.75 for nonprofit, same as fire, but 3.75% for idle COVID and 3% for fire idle. They're both 30 years. They both have 11. We don't know the payment deferral on fire as of right now, but idle COVID has 11 months. The interest does accrue, but you don't have to make a payment until the 12th month. For collateral, you can see there's a little bit of difference here. $25,000 or more, they require some sort of collateral, personal guarantee for $200,000 or more. For idle COVID, idle fire, collateral is required at $25,000 or more, and personal guarantee is required automatically for all 20% owners. No forgivability for either one. It is a loan, you got to pay it back. You can use it, looks like very similar ways to spend the money, all operating expenses, business operating, normal expenses. Not allowed to use it for expansion and refinance long-term loans. Like, you could use it to pay off your monthly interest debt payments, but you can't use it to pay anything off completely or use it for any tax liens. So the required documents for PPP, there's a website here, you can check it out. There's a website here, you can check it out at the treasury.gov. And then the instructions for the current application at this time. We have heard from people in the community, business lending community. We've heard lenders have filled out some of these applications with their borrowers, their clients, business owners like you. They have submitted it to SBA and they haven't heard anything back. SBA does have 90 days to get back to the lender once they supply a forgiveness application that is submitted. So at this time, we haven't heard of anybody getting full forgiveness. We haven't heard of many lenders coming to the plate and actually helping businesses fill out this application. I have heard from a local small, medium-sized bank called River City Bank, and they are helping their business owners or clients fill out this application and submit it, but they have not heard yet back from SBA. So we are at the SBA Support. We have David Castaneda from the district office of SBA in Sacramento. There's some information here. There's the disaster contact info, the reconsideration info, and also the servicing info, which at all different stages of when you apply and when you get, you find out about what's going on, you can call these different and email these different departments. They're all separated across the country. But yeah, David Castaneda, I'm not sure if you have some updates you want to talk about.
Yeah, just real quick. Scott, as you mentioned, National Small Business Week is just around the corner. It's going to start September 22nd through September 24th. It's free. I will put the registration link, can let people know about that, but there's going to be a lot of good information. Actually, I got a really good e-flyer from it's the American SBDC. So they're also, making sure everybody knows about that. So you may have gotten that. So that's coming up real soon. But also I just want to make sure, with the different resource partners that we have is that, that you let your clients know or yourself, just to let you know that, we do also, along with the Small Business Development Center, that's nationwide, the network, we also have SCORE.org that also is there to help clients. They're a volunteer organization. So they do have a lot of good programs and services. You can look at that through SCORE.org. That's their national website. A lot of good information there. And again, you can, it's another good resource to have your clients take a look at too, or yourself if you need some additional resources. Also, we do have the Women's Business Center. In Northern California, our Women's Business Center in Mount Shasta, I think, has one of the really neat calendar of events with a good lineup of women speakers and presenters with a lot of good topics. So take a look at that. That's the Women's Business Center in Mount Shasta. And we also do have a really good Women's Business Center in Sacramento region. So take a look at those. Again, those are all resources under the umbrella of the SBA, all there to help you, the client, or a good resource for the consultants also to know about. That's all I have, Scott.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much, David. And we'll look to Today is the, oh well, sorry everybody. Today's the 21st, so that starts tomorrow. The Small Business Week from 22nd to 24th, so that starts tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have some more updates on the 23rd on Wednesday on our next webinar. All right, cool. Well, thank you very much, David. So our upcoming webinars from NorCal SBDC, I'll let Alan go over these.
Thanks, Scott. So these are the ones that are being run at the regional level. We're also, I want to make sure you would know that there are probably 10 to 15 a week available from the various centers we've got. So all our 30 centers are running webinars mostly once or twice a week. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. These are things we're doing at the regional level. So Chana, who's our one of our regional HR consultants, has done a great session. She's repeating for us on diversity and inclusion in the workplace, about how to create and set up a diversity and inclusion program for your small business. On Thursday, we've got one of the finance center specialists talking about how to take control of your credit. So looking at doing a credit repair and making sure you understand how good your credit report is and how your credit score is put together, and optimizing that so you can get the best options you can. Also, so next Tuesday, we've got someone working on some Shopify. So if you need to launch up, if you've got a retail store and you need to try and get online and you've chosen Shopify, then that's what we'll be covering on Tuesday. We also covered Facebook Shop last week. And then as cash flow management is important to everybody, we're going to have Paul Bozo redoing his cash flow forecasting, which also talks about how he also introduces and shares this great tool which gives you really accurate, essentially week by week cash flow projections to keep you flexible and working as we go along. And then we've got our specialist who's talking about just generally getting a business going online, so that everything you need to know about getting and starting an online part to your event. And that's Sean Barker, who's one of our e-commerce specialists. He does a great session that tells you everything you need to know, and then you realize what you don't know after that, and you start getting in deeper with your local advisors. You can get access to all of those SBDC events /network calendar, which also has all the hundreds of things that are being done by the local centers. And we're putting together the rest of our October program and expect to hear from us on the next few days with what that looks like. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alan. Appreciate that update. And so our upcoming webinars as we move through this week and then the end of this month. We're not sure about October and how much we're going to continue these depending on the demand. But so Wednesday, September 23rd, we'll do fire and COVID updates plus case force. Apologize for the wrong date. That's the 22nd is tomorrow. The 23rd is Wednesday. And then Monday, the 28th, so 1 week from today, we have disaster loan updates as we have today, and then we have a credit repair specialist. So if you're looking to repair your credit to get to that next loan or the next level in your business, we can help you with that. And then on the 30th, to finish out this month, we have our fire COVID updates and our case force. So a couple of attorney meetings as we go through. All right. So we have our guest speaker today. I'm going to have Sunita introduce Linda, and then we're going to go into Linda's presentation.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. I'd like to introduce Linda Siniard. As you can see here, she has an extensive background in HR, and she is currently working on her PhD. So please meet Linda Siniard.
Hi, everyone. Just a little bit of background. I've worked for the last 26 years in internal HR leadership positions with corporations, but also as a consultant, independent consultant. So a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you today is, well, We call it the Bermuda Triangle of HR. So next slide, Alan, please. Leaves of absence. In the big arena we call HR best practices. Leaves of absence, or LOAs, are some of the most difficult to manage. Before COVID, we thought they were very difficult. Now we have new regulations that are overlapping with some of the federal and state leaves that already exist, and navigating your way through all of those are difficult at best. So the first one we're going to look at is the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. It is for absolutely for 50 or more full-time employees. There are exceptions. It's actually, technically, it's for all employers with 500 or less employees. So that means if you have one employee, you may have to actually abide by the emergency paid sick leave. However, if you are less than 50 employees, or actually 50 or less, there are exemptions. So the exemptions are based on profitability of the organization, whether it would negatively impact your business if you were to offer this, if you financially cannot do it, if it would potentially close down your business in order to do this. It is a paid sick leave, and not all sick leave is paid depending on the state. Here in California, we're very fortunate to have paid sick leave. However, the Paid Sick Leave Act that is related to coronavirus is explicitly around absences that are in one way or another related to COVID. So it can be your own personal leave, meaning that the employee is either sick and they're awaiting diagnosis, or they're sick, they're awaiting diagnosis, but the medical provider has said you need to not be at work, which is the common thing while you're waiting on test results. By the way, my test results took 18 days to come back. So in those 18 days, had I been a person who was asking for the paid sick leave, I would have been over the just barely, but over the 2-week paid sick leave. In that case, my extra 2 days would have had to move to the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act. We're going to call that FEMLA Plus because that title is just so long. The same thing is true for this piece, and it is that employers with 500 or less employees are required to follow this act. However, if you are 50 or less employees, you have the same right to apply for the exemption. The exemptions are pretty stringent in terms of documentation, and both of these pieces to the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the FCRA, are managed by the Department of Labor. So when you're keeping your documentation for both of these types of leaves, the paid sick leave and the FEMLA Plus, keep all of your documentation, but do not send it to the Department of Labor. There's still discussion as to when that might be necessary. Originally, they said they needed you to have your documentation within 30 days after the first leave, either one of these, paid sick leave or FEMLA Plus. However, now they're saying, do not send any documentation to the DOL. They can't handle it. It's too much. Too many people are out on these types of leaves. So the first one, the Paid Sick Leave Act, and I actually have to keep referring to my notes here because, like I said, the Bermuda Triangle of HR, there are so many pieces and parts, and they are sometimes confusing, and they're very often overlapping with pre-existing types of leaves of absence from the federal government and the state of California. So the paid sick leave, it is for employees who are full-time employees. It gives them the right to 2 weeks, up to 80 hours of paid sick leave. And this means the employer is going to continue to pay that person. And the only way you get reimbursed for it is through tax credits. And the tax credits come from the IRS. So here we start getting into a little bit of the overlap between agencies and also some of the confusion. Right this minute, the IRS is still considering further changes. We don't know exactly what they're going to be. Originally, when FCRA came out, you had to wait the whole year to get your tax credit. Now the IRS has changed that, thank goodness, for small employers. And you can, so you'll pay out the 2 weeks to the employee who's out on sick leave. And then your next quarterly tax payment on your payroll taxes, that's where you can reduce the amount you send into the IRS. On some occasions, the amount of your tax payment to the IRS are not going to be enough to cover your payroll. And the IRS is considering doing a roll forward so that you can actually use the next one, the next quarterly payment. Let's see, the leaves are effective from April 1st through December 31st, these two. If you had somebody who went out on leave in March, they do not qualify. You cannot do this retroactively. The only retroactivity for these leaves is back to April 1st. There's also, now that's full pay for the 80 hours. If you, the employee, is the person who is sick and getting tested and waiting for results, or under quarantine from an actual medical provider. There's also 2 weeks of paid sick leave at 2/3 of your regular rate of pay if you're taking care of someone else who's been quarantined. This is someone who lives in your house, your family members, somebody else that lives in your home, and you are the person who's responsible for their day-to-day care. Then it's 2/3. And it's also, hang on a sec, I have to actually look at this one. Oh, or if you're doing this because your child's school is closed. It could be the school or a, what do you call it, daycare provider. During the summer months, it does not include summer vacation. So if the school is closed just for summer vacation, you're not allowed to take either the Paid Sick Leave Act or FMLA Plus to take care of your child. The caveat there is if you had planned on sending your kid to a summer camp, or if they normally go to daycare and those two different types of providers are closed down due to COVID, then you can go to the 2/3 pay. After those 2 weeks are used up from the paid sick leave, if you still have a need to be off work and your job is actually still functioning, either through on-site or telework, then you can go on the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act, like I said, known as FEMLA Plus. That will give you 10 extra weeks. The difference between FMLA, as we've known it before COVID, and FEMLA Plus is that this is paid and regular FMLA is unpaid. Hang on a sec. Part of the, again, confusing pieces about having your employees request these types of leave is that they also are partially covered by the California Paid Family Leave or California Paid Sick Leave. So you have to determine which type of leave. Is it a California Paid Family Leave? Is it a California Paid Sick Leave? Is it FCRA Emergency Paid Sick Leave? Or is it FCRA FEMLA Plus? You cannot pay out on all of these at the same time. That would be just, you know, what, double and quadruple dipping. So you can only choose one at a time. What a lot of employers are doing is they're letting there's another piece to this too. Your company may have an additional expanded sick leave. It may be more than the state requires. It's a company policy thing. We have no way of knowing until somebody calls and says, hey, here's my situation. Which kind of leave do I use for this employee? So what a lot of the employers are doing is they're using the state paid family leave. If you're taking care of someone, not you, you're not sick, you're taking care of someone, they're using the California paid sick leave first if the employee is the sick person. And then they're moving to the emergency paid sick leave through FCRA. And then they're moving to the emergency FMLA Plus. So it's not an easy path to figure out which way you're supposed to go. The amount of paid leave is different in each one of these types of leave. The amount of wage supplementation, or the payments that you're allowed to pay your employee, or that the state of California is going to pay if they're using California paid family leave or California paid sick leave first, those are taken care of through paid family leave is taken care of through the Employment Development Department. Oh my goodness, that EDD just, it completely left my brain. Employment Development Department. California paid sick leave is paid by the employer, and so are these other two, except for the fact the FCRA leaves do get reimbursed through the tax credits. We have a that first link there, which Alan is going to put in the, is it the chat box, Alan?
Yep, I'll just pop it in chat now.
Okay, so this is a California comparison with FCRA. It is a it's a 3-page document. No, it's a 4-page document that compares those 4 types of leave that I just described. Also, the FCRA Q&A is I don't know how many pages, many pages, because there are 103 different situations that are covered in this document. It's extensive. It's not easy to manage your way through it. Some of the words, if you're not used to what we call HR speak, are going to be a little bit, what does that, you're going to ask, what does that mean? But I'm going to pick out a couple of them that are, that are my favorites because they're difficult. They're just difficult. Let me preface this by saying in this document, the one that's the FCRA Q&A, there are overlapping agencies which govern different parts of it. And that is true of all California and federal leave laws. You've got the EDD for California, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing for California, the Department of Labor for the federal, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, yes, they have something to do with leaves of absence, for the feds, and the IRS. And that's not a complete list. So when you look at a leave of absence and you say, what do I do with it? And you may just say, oh, sure, go on the leave. But there are so many things, so many documents that are required with each one that you really need to do some homework here. Like I said earlier, before COVID, parental and pregnancy leaves of absence for the state of California were the most difficult to navigate. There are too many concurrently running leaves that are on the books and required to offer your employees. In other words, you can't just say, no, never mind, I'm not going to give you FMLA if the employee is actually eligible. You can't deny them California Family Rights Act if the employee is eligible. However, if they don't qualify, meaning you have 50 or more employees for the feds and 25 or more employees for the state, then you go straight to pregnancy disability leave. Then you go to the paid family leave. And now, I don't even think I put this in my slides, since January 1st of 2019, the new Parent Leave Act for California is also in there. With all the different pregnancy types of leave, an employee could be out for 7 months. Back in the old days, the very old days when I had kids, we got 6 weeks. That was it, period, end of story. So we're very fortunate to have California leave laws. They are some of the most comprehensive in the country. Massachusetts and New York also have really good leaves of absence. Let's see, I was going to go to some of my favorites. These are my, this is next to my notes, next to some of them, I actually put the word nightmare. But the good thing is that, that the government has chosen to address COVID types of leaves in a way that hasn't ever been done before. So we're really fortunate that this act came along. Let's see, some of my favorites. Okay, here's one. As an employee, how much will I be paid while taking paid sick leave or expanded family and medical leave under the FCRA? And the answer is, well, it depends. So the maximum a person can get is $511 per day, or $5,110 for the total over those 10 days of the leave, the 2 weeks. The other piece is you'll only get paid 2/3 of that amount, with a maximum of $200 per day, or $2,000 over the 10 days, if you're doing the care part. So the first one was for if you, the employee, are sick or waiting on a diagnosis. The second part is if you're taking care of someone. Here's another piece to it, though, and it is that you take, it gets really confusing, and I'm telling you, I've read this stuff over and over. If you're taking expanded family medical leave, you may take paid sick leave for the first 2 weeks, which I've already gone over. But you can also substitute company paid sick leave in advance. You can't pay them for company paid sick leave at the same time as they're getting the emergency paid sick leave through FCRA. So these are some of the things that I look at and I go, is the average employer gonna know how to do this? My guess is they're gonna be reading a lot. And like I said, it's 103 different situations that are noted in that document that you have access to now, I hope, right, Alan?
Yes, they do.
All right, thank you.
In the chat.
Okay, great. I already covered that it's not retroactive. When your employee asks for either the paid sick leave or FMLA, these are the pieces of documentation they need to turn into you. This needs to be in writing. It's not because you may be that sort of type A about documentation, but you're working with a federal, legislative piece here that could actually audit. By the way, the Department of Labor actually has the right to audit your company on how you've managed FMLA and FMLA Plus. So my guess is they have the same responsibility to audit for the emergency paid sick leave. We don't know that yet, but this is the documentation you need. It needs to be the name of your employee, the date the leave is requested, the reason for the leave, whether it's for their own illness or waiting on diagnosis, or whether it's to take care of someone, or if the school is closed, or other daycare, and a statement from the employee that they're unable to work, and they need to actually tell you the reason. They do not need to tell you the diagnosis once they've had a COVID test. That's part of HIPAA, so they don't need to tell you what it is. If they ask for continuing leave after they've gotten their diagnosis, you just need to go with it. So they need to request that. You need to maintain documents on all of that. Hang on one sec. Where's one of my nightmares?
Linda, do you mind if we jump into answering some of the questions that we have in here?
Sure, absolutely, go.
So Myra is saying, seems like the unemployment for self-employed is over.
Unemployment for self-employed. You mean that, are we talking about the PUA?
I'm sure they are.
I actually don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't looked it up for, I don't know, a couple of weeks more. It's been about a
Okay.
month, actually.
What we can
Sorry,
do is,
Myra. I can
Myra-
look it up and send it to you.
perfect. Myra, if you want to give us your information in the chat, and then that way we can get back to you. And then another question, I'm hoping my business is in education at schools. Reopening is slow, but soon I'll be bringing my employee instructors back. Do you have any advice on having them sign a COVID waiver upon return to employment with my business?
That would depend on what you mean by a COVID waiver. If you're saying that you want them to sign a waiver that says, I'm coming back to work and I will not hold you responsible if I get COVID while I'm back at work, that is an issue that's come up. It's actually being debated amongst lots and lots of attorneys in the country. I know there are certain educational organizations who are requesting them and other businesses. I would say it is something that requires more than a suggestion from me. I would actually check with an attorney on that. And by the way, that is a common answer to questions about HR. Some things are just too either complex or risky, and it depends on the business owner's comfort level with risk as to whether they'll go with my answer or whether they'll contact an attorney.
Thank you.
Denise, I would be happy to send you more information on that if you'd like. Sunita, can you?
Yeah, Denise, you can put your info in the chat, and then that way we can email you that information.
Okay.
Let's see here. Rhonda, she put her info in the chat, but I think this is a great question. Rhonda is asking, are healthcare workers exempt from any of the FFRCA benefits?
Yes, they are exempt from some of them, and it depends on the business, the type of position you have in healthcare, like medical doctors are exempt, nurses, if you're in the ancillary services, like within a hospital, typically they are exempt, but again, there are some exceptions. By the way, I don't see that question anywhere. Mine.
It wasn't there, it was actually in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Spotted it there in the chat. Let's see here. Can we require employees to get tested for COVID?
You cannot require an employee to be tested for COVID. However, you can stipulate that if they don't have a negative test, they're not allowed to come back to work. You can't direct them to go have it. You can just say, we need a negative test in order for you to come back to work. And then the employee has the choice of whether to go have the test or quit their job. Sometimes they do, and they will literally go on unemployment. Whether unemployment will approve their claim is another question. Now, let me take that back for 1 second. Most healthcare providers are in a different situation. And yes, I think most of them are requiring it. But it's the same thing. You can't say you have to. You just say, we need a negative test before you can come back.
Got it. So it's just it's the wording.
It's the wording, yes.
Okay. Megan is asking a question. I haven't read through the whole thing. It's quite an extensive question. I don't know if you want to read it as well. It says, my employer is having a community event at their location for employees, families, etc. Would be able to get tested for COVID. However, the employer is requiring 50% of employees to get tested each month. For example, I get tested in September and again in November. My employer is saying to bring our medical insurance cards to have the COVID charge ran through my medical provider. Since my employer is wanting me to get tested, should they be paying for the test rather than running it through my medical insurance?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that there's any specific law that says they would have to pay for it. Typically, when an employer says, in order to come back to work, I need you to go this, that, or the other thing as far as healthcare, they pay for it. However, there's nothing specific that I've found so far that says that they can't use your insurance. So I do not have an answer for that. Don't know that I'll even find one. I've looked for it.
Thank you. Let's see here. Vivian is asking, I have a housekeeping service business. I don't do the actual work of cleaning, but just do admin, advertising, quotes, scheduling, etc. I've always hired independent contractors to do the actual work. If I got approved and received, sorry, this is PPP, received the PPP.
Okay, I know the answer to this one.
Okay, awesome. PPP loan and the EIDL loan, can I use it to pay my independent contractors? Do I need to hire a W-2 so he or she can do the actual work for my business so I can use the PPP loan?
So Vivian, there's a two-part answer. If you're running a housekeeping service business and you're hiring independent contractors to do the actual work, that's what's called misclassification. They actually work for you. They may work for other people as well, and they may like the idea that they're independent contractors, but if you're using them to do the core business, the core work of your organization, they are de facto employees. I would be very, very careful about the fact that at any point in time, one of those employees can actually apply for unemployment. They can get hurt on the job, and both of those will come back and bite you. Sorry, but that's the truth. There's a lot of confusion over independent contractors and employment status. It's incredibly expensive if you don't do it correctly. So please check that out. Also, if you got approved to receive the PPP loan, I'm not talking about EIDL, but for PPP, no, you cannot use the money you pay your independent contractors under the PPP loan, only W-2s.
Perfect. Shirley is asking, if one employee tested positive, I thought the employer needs to test all the employees and send them to quarantine for 14 days before resuming, reopening, and bringing everyone back to work. Question.
I actually don't know if that's a requirement. I know there was a lot of difficulty over this in the beginning where employees thought it was a violation of their civil rights to be required to go take a medical exam. And yet the companies are at the highest risk for spread if they don't. Again, a lot of it's in the wording of how you test or how you encourage your employees to test. They can say, we need everybody to get tested. We need for you to wait for your results to come back. If you don't get them for 18 days like Linda, then you're gonna have to wait the whole 18 days in quarantine before you get your test back. And the answer really is, if you are not willing to go do the test, you cannot return to work. So, you know, we use the word require. Sure, it's a requirement, but they can't force you.
Linda, we actually had a webinar on a case study for this. One of our advisors runs a restaurant, and they had a case of an employee having they had a COVID case in the workforce. And the interesting thing was the definition of close contact. So just because, you know, like everyone in the, let's say one of us were to get it, you know, I'm an employee, as is Scott, as is Sunita, but I haven't actually been in any form of contact at all with any of them for the last 6 months. But also it's a question of contact, and if you're working in different parts of it on different shifts, those things can all impact.
Absolutely.
I'm going to find the recording of that, because it went into some details on the protocols and stuff. So for the person who asked that question, I'm going to find that recording in the chat. Way more. It was a whole hour on basically that question. So
yeah, okay, that would be great. Send it my way too, Alan.
I'll put it in the chat. We can all see it.
Okay. So I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So let's move. Oh, wait. Can you go up slides? Okay.
Which
So
one,
down there.
this was the first slide, and then I have these 2 slides, and then this slide. And
yeah.
then this, so.
And these go very quickly because I'm not going into detail. How are we doing on time?
We have 9 minutes left of the session.
Perfect, because the rest of these are much quicker. So, wait, I can't see the screen, the slide. It's too far to the left. There we go. Thank you. So California and federal leaves of absence. These are mandated. FMLA, the type that preceded FMLA plus. CFRA, which is the California Family Rights Act. Okay, go. California Parental Leave Law, also known as PFL, for 20 plus full-time employees. California Pregnancy Disability Leave, California Paid Sick Leave, workers' compensation. If you have only one employee, you have to provide them with workers' compensation, and if they get hurt on the job, you do have to give them the time off. And this is mandated by both the federal government and California. State disability for California, if you only have one employee, you better be paying into the state disability through mandatory payroll taxes in case they need to go out. Jury duty leave, that's if you have also one or more employee. And it is not paid, but there are huge issues around if they are a salaried employee and they're only at jury duty for 4 hours and they come back to work afterwards, you got to pay them for the whole day. Military service. This is for the person who is actually the active military person. Next slide. Spouse military service, you have to have at least 25 employees for this to kick in. Domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking victims. Yes, they get time off to deal with those issues. They're going to need to talk to attorneys. Sometimes they need to be in court. Sometimes they need to be talking to a psychotherapist. Sometimes they're in the hospital. So yes, they get time off through a leave of absence. If you are required for legal proceedings, you get time off. Crime victims, if you're the victim of a crime, you are protected with a leave of absence. This one I love, school appearance. So school appearance is if your kid gets in trouble and you go to the school to work it out with whoever, the principal or the counselor, and you get to go do that. Your company can't prevent you from doing that. But the more fun one is school and childcare activities. You have up to 40 hours per year to go to school activities. In other words, you can go to, what would that be? Let's call it somewhere between 5 and 8 different events minimum. So you can go to school plays, you can go on field trips, you can go to parent-teacher conferences during your workday, and your company cannot prevent you from it. Volunteer civil service, that's protected as well. Next slide. Training, emergency rescue patrol. So this is for our personnel. This is training specific to emergency rescue personnel. Lots of times your firefighters and first responders need to do training, and it's going to be during the work day. You can't prevent them from that. Civil Air Patrol, organ and bone marrow donor, and they sometimes are off for more than just a day. So that's a really hard thing to recover from. In case you've ever been involved in organ or bone marrow donor procedures, they can be off for quite a while. I left out voting. Voting, you get to go for 2 hours max. Some companies will say, if you cannot vote outside of work hours, then you have the 2 hours off. So some companies will actually try to pressure you not to take the time off during the workday. Well, that's fine, but if you can't, you have the right to go and they can't stop you. Next slide. These are optional. These usually end up in company employment handbooks, and it depends on the philosophy of the company about how well their employees are taken care of. Bereavement leave. I wish bereavement leave would move into mandated, but it's still not in California. It's been argued at the federal level for, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years, and it always comes in at about 1% approval, which is just pitiful. So typical bereavement leave is 3 days. And then if you have to travel, some companies extend it to 5. It is an unpaid leave. Some companies pay for it anyway. Extended disability. Sometimes there's something going on with your disability, you've blown through your disability claim, and you still need time off for something that's associated. Some companies will do that. As a matter of fact, during COVID, I've had a couple of clients who extended disability over and above everything else to their employees for COVID-related absences. Sabbatical for people who are doing educational work. It's usually professors and it's usually universities that offer this. It's not for everybody. Personal leaves of absence. These are some of the most difficult to navigate because what you give to one person, you must give to anyone who asks for the same type. Education, some companies do it. Some companies say your education has to be outside of work time. And then time and service. Very few people, very few companies do this, but I've worked for 2 that actually give time and service leave, a week off after 5 years. And it's basically just to go clear your head and come back refreshed. So those, then there are optional leaves of absence that sometimes I run across when I'm working with a client and I've never heard of them. It's just random. It's something unique to their culture, unique to their business. And I think the next slide is, so the reason I'm saying ask for help is that both federal and California state leaves of absence can overlap, they can run simultaneously, and it can be confusing. They also, if you don't do them correctly, can cost the employer money in fines and penalties, and sometimes back pay if they're not administered correctly. So that's the end of this piece of the presentation. And if you have more questions, please send them along.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Linda. Thanks for going over that. Lots of great information. Sounds like I didn't know there was that many leave of absence types. It's quite a few. And yeah, I can't imagine being in the HR industry right now. And I feel for you, all the clients that you're helping. As it's intense. That's a lot of yeah, the loan stuff that we do is a little bit easier than what you explained, but you know, I just want to let everybody know that Linda's on our team. She's available to you and your business, and she can help you work through all these different intricacies of HR law and what the parameters are within that. So please reach out. You can call us here, 833-ASK-SBDC. You can ask for Linda. The HR specialist that spoke on today's call. They'll know what you're talking about. You can go to ASKSBDC.com to download this webinar as well as the other ones in the past. And you could email us if you have questions at loans@asksbdc.com. If you speak Spanish or you prefer to speak in Spanish, you can email us at espanol@asksbdc.com. And you can talk to Oscar Garcia and the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. They do an excellent job educating and updating you on everything that we did here today in Spanish. And I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. We thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks Linda as a guest speaker. Thanks for the all the updates, Linda. And yeah, I think we'll cut it. Alan, what do you think? Since
I think it's my head's spinning from all those different leaves, and I've worked with HR departments, so I have a fair number of them in my head already. So yes, I think it's time for us all to go and have a lie down, and we'll see you all in either at this event on Wednesday where we have Case Force, or in one of our webinars, one of our mini webinars in the next week or so. So take care, everybody. Keep safe, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.